Streaming.
Hey, everybody. Welcome in to another episode of the Fantasy Addicts Fantasy Football Podcast with your host, myself, Mike, and my co-host, Nikki B.
That's me, Nikki B.
All right. We are coming at you live on Twitch.
We'll do it live.
We'll do it live.
And as usual, we're going to be posting it to YouTube later in the week. So we are going to record another episode of Why You Suck at Fantasy Football.
Oh, no. We
suck
suck again.
And today we are going to be talking about trades. Why you suck at trades.
So important, right?
It can be. I think
I agree.
if you are in a slump, if your team is going poorly because you suck at fantasy football, one way that you might have a chance to really turn things around quick is to make a good trade. Sometimes that can make or break your
It's
team.
impossible to win a championship without trading, right?
Well, again, if you listen to our draft tips and you just have a perfect draft, maybe. But, there's rare that you get a perfect draft. And the reason that trades are important, just injuries happen every year. You lose players. Even if you had a great draft, you can fall subject to some things that could be outside of your control. And really, one of the things that, again, there are some people that it seems in each league that are good at trading. There are some that are just bad at trading. The people that, and then there's the people that seem to make bad trades where it works out. So,
I know. Well, and I feel like you got to kind of focus in on some of those people, right?
Absolutely. So we're going to talk about some of the different kinds of people that trade, some different strategies of how you can make trades happen, and maybe some things to avoid. So we're going to start. We'll talk maybe about just some general things. Maybe at the end we'll get into a little bit of more dynasty specific because there is a little bit different dynamic to trading in dynasty. But let's start. Let's talk about let's throw out that bait trade. So every once in a while you got to send out some. Maybe it's not the actual player you want to give away. Maybe it's not the actual player you want in return. But you got to send out a little something to get it started.
Yeah, I think you definitely get that initial bid in. But are you sure you want to be the first one to bet?
Faking them out with a decoy.
Yeah, so there's different strategies. And again, you got to know your league. We've said that about different strategies. A lot of different things. It comes down to knowing the people in your league. But there's usually those people that, some of them are just that hard bargain. You could make them a great offer. You're giving them Christian McCaffrey for Mitch Trubisky, and they're just like...
Break my balls here.
Yeah, they're not having it.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you get... So talk about Doug, because I'll let you open on our Dynasty League mate, Doug.
That's why I open with you can't win a championship without trading. It's 100% false because he never makes trades.
Right over my head, yeah.
Anti-trade just won't do it. And I just don't understand that strategy. And I think it hurts you more often than it's going to help you.
Again, if you're a guy that always makes bad trades, if you're an uneducated kind of owner and you're just making them because it's fun to hit the button and see people. But again, I think that most of the people, especially if they're to the level where they're watching this great fantasy football podcast, you're going to be fairly savvy. You're going to have an idea. Or again, you're going to at least be educating yourself so that you can become, that person that wins the trade.
Right. How do you feel your depth of knowledge is compared to your league mates? Do you feel like you know more than they do, or do you feel like you're more current than they are, or do you feel like it's kind of an even playing field?
I play in a number of leagues, so it varies from league to league. I think definitely in the leagues that we play together, we've got a lot of people that, they've got that addiction. They're hooked.
I agree.
They're diving deep. They're reading about, everything. They got the updates. One of the things that has helped me is, again, I do have some leagues where not everyone has those updates on their phone, so they're not getting that up to the second. Guy that I had on my dynasty team, Jalen Hurd, probably has an ACL injury, and so we're waiting on the results of that. But in my league, I'll be able to drop and pick somebody up before maybe in another league where I play with people that they would even have been aware of that if they know who Jalen Hurd was.
Right.
But things like that, when you get that news and now I got to go to the waiver, I got to drop this guy, I got to pick this guy up. Okay, this guy is this guy's backup. Like I know the backups already, I know the handcuffs, I know who I need to go get right away, and I can jump on there. And again, depending on how your league's set up, some of them the waivers run at different times, so that maybe everybody has a chance and they can. But sometimes there are those leagues where you got to get to it at that specific time on that certain day before it'll go through.
For sure. Well, I sourced some fancy tips from a fellow league mate, Barry. I believe you're familiar, and his first tip that he thought was super important, which we kind of rephrased and make a little softer, would be know your league, but his was know your league taco.
Okay.
Basically, key in on maybe the people that are less informed or maybe a little looser with their trades or don't quite know player values. If you're ethically okay and morally okay with that,
Just take advantage of it.
take advantage of everybody that you can.
It's a bold strategy.
When it all
Todd.
costs.
We'll see if
When it
pays
all
off
costs.
for him.
But
Yeah.
but really, it's know your league mates. And okay, Doug, we know he's not going to trade. Again, we can try and send offers, but we know what's going to happen.
Once in a while, just to troll him, yeah.
But another player in our league, Andrew, he trades every other week, and not are all great for him. Not all work out. Some do. He likes to keep it interesting, and that's great too. But he didn't win. Doug did.
Absolutely. And again, everybody, you can make a trade and it looks great, and everybody in the league thinks you're a genius. And on paper, you
Right.
made it. You go into the calculators and you look at people, if they rank that trade, if they graded that trade, you get an A. And then something happens, it's outside of your control, and all of a sudden,
Like Joe Mixon plays really well.
A couple weeks later, you look like a fool.
Yeah.
But so you never know. So again, personally,
Yes,
I'll
very
talk
close to
about
that.
mine. Again, I traded away Cortland Sutton for Doug Baldwin.
How'd that work out
before
for
Doug
you?
Baldwin retired. Didn't,
before he
didn't see
retired.
that coming.
Oh, I made a mistake.
And
Trade was a big
My
bad
other
choice,
worst
bad choice.
trade was a little less harsh because I picked up Dak Prescott off of waivers because he'd been
Right.
dropped, so I got him for nothing. I traded him for Alex Collins, who the Ravens had a good soft end of the year schedule. I needed a running back. I was making a run at the championship. And then he got an injury, didn't play, and then ended up getting in trouble for,
Right.
I think, having marijuana in his car, and hasn't been back in the league since. And
And I don't think you will.
during his comeback, I think he broke his leg. So, yeah,
Yeah.
in hindsight, I would have done it differently.
Mike knows it's the wrong jersey, but he is wearing it in support of
Get a
Blackhawks.
little-
Big win.
Yep, Blackhawks got a
Yeah,
big win.
people are ripping you for wearing
Oh,
a
no,
non-football jersey.
So the Blackhawks made the playoff. That was great. The
Yeah.
comeback's on. They are down 3-1 in the series. Game 5 tomorrow night. I'm excited. So you're saying there's a chance the
Yeah.
Blackhawks can come back. They
And,
can pull
and then
it
there's
off.
comments in the chat that I need the beard back. My chin sweater.
Yeah, your face looks cold without it. but
It's a little chilly.
I got the sweater, so I'm warm again.
That's true.
What really happened was just much like our fantasy teams, Nick Spear took a look at my beard and just got intimidated, retreated back into his face.
I don't
he
think-
didn't actually shave.
No, I don't think that's it at all. All right, you got the next tip.
All right, next tip. Moving on. Bring it back. One that I like to do is when someone sends me a trade offer, maybe I think it's an awful offer.
Right.
Some guys
They usually are.
Some guys will just look at your offer and criticize you.
You're tacky and I hate you.
Just attack you personally, just to make fun of your family.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I don't get offended by any trade. You can send me the worst trade offer in the world, and what I will do is I will generally send a trade offer back.
Right.
I've had people send me back a trolling trade offer that was an obvious, you're not going to
Right,
give up
a spite trade
C
offer.
for Trubisky, but I'll send back an actual offer. They're like, okay, well, maybe we can get kind of
Right. Open the
a
door.
back and forth going. Maybe they'll notice like, oh, well, he kind of
he's willing
offered
to
these.
part
Maybe
with
he's
us,
willing
yeah.
to trade this guy, even though, So I like to do that, and I've had a couple that came from that. Where it was just they sent an offer, I sent
Right.
back a different offer, not a crazy offer, nothing, trolling them, but just, well, maybe let's see if he likes this guy, or maybe,
Right.
and then it lets them know, oh, well, he was willing to move these pieces,
Right.
So
Also,
I like to do that.
our viewers in the chat, if you have any of your own trade tips that we haven't covered or you don't think we will, post them in there and we'll talk about them.
Yeah. Also, if there are players that you feel like you're trading for or trying to trade away this year,
Yeah. Give us that insider knowledge.
especially if you're in Dynasty. But yeah, even in the redraft league, if there's guys that you think are going to have a boom start of the year, I was hopeful that Damian Williams would be that guy for me, and then he opted out. So,
and then sayonara.
oh, Damian again, picked him off the waivers. So it hurts a little less when you get those pieces
Yeah.
that I was able.
But
he helped
you
me
could
win
have traded
that first year championship.
a year ago for probably a pretty penny.
I actually sent out offers, and really people,
Not interested.
not interested. No, because he had the end of that year, and then ever since no one ever got.
Well,
the
I think that's a
hype.
good segue, not to cut you off on your point here,
jump
but
in.
when trading, if you're, especially at the draft, if you're deciding between two players you think will relatively the same type of season, go for the bigger name because the bigger names are so much easier to trade. Gronk, right? I'm
Yeah.
a big Gronk fan, as everybody that watches this knows. But there's no guarantee he has a good season here, right? But there's no doubt I could trade Gronk for more value than he'll probably have on my roster. No?
I think if you do it before the first game, or if that first
After a
game
big
goes
game.
well. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So those guys, if they have a big game, people are like, he's still got it.
Right.
He's still the Gronk. You know?
Right. But you can sell a name and
smash
potential
that trade by
potential. It's like if Antonio Brown gets picked up somewhere, he's still going to be a popular asset to pick up regardless of his actual, abilities. Same thing with like Josh Gordon, you pick him up off waivers, you flip him quickly, before he's even played a snap.
Yeah, I think that that's a good point. Another thing that I do is like, I think it's good when you start on the trades to just like, I'll maybe ask somebody like, what are like 2 or 3 guys that you're just definitely not going to trade?
Right.
I've had offers in
Untouchables.
Dynasty for Christian McCaffrey. And again, I've sent back.
I've made good offers.
I've sent back. But again, the offers I will send back is if you were to do it, I would take it. But it's just I ask for
a lot
more than what
an insane amount.
Yeah, more than what a rational person would give.
I've
But sometimes people
I've
fall in
made
love.
equal and quality offers to Christian's value, but not to what you want.
No, him and Pat Mahomes, that's the heart and soul of my team. I just need them to
That
score
is your
all
team.
the points.
That is literally your team.
And if someone can just fall into an end zone, like we got it.
Yeah, if one of your other players can score a touchdown, it's the best
Ronald
thing.
Jones, I'm talking to you, Ronald Jones.
Your team is always the
Now is the
underdog.
time, Ronald.
Stop trying to make that happen. It's not gonna
happening.
happen.
This is the year. Get on the hype train.
He said his only key is basically to not get attached to any of his players. But really, that's a big tip too. Everybody is
It's easy to love your
invested in
guys.
their own guys, right? It doesn't matter if they're terrible. It's your guy.
Yeah.
It's your terrible.
And you probably pick them because you see the potential,
Exactly.
or if only these
Right.
couple things fall into place,
Right.
he's going to be great.
But at the same time, they're probably
if AJ
a turd.
Green's feet don't fall off. Speaking of AJ Green, left the field today from practice with a hamstring injury. It's begun. Oh, they'll say he'll be back.
Let's break
week
that up with an
5.
Arnie Palmy alert.
All right, here we go. I gotta switch the drop page.
Arnold Palmer alert. Arnold
So good.
Palmer alert.
So good.
Who wants some Arnie Palmies?
Refreshing.
I do.
All right. We'll bring it back. All right. We got a little off track. So, again, big names is one that we had on there. Also, again, we talked about a little bit of kind of that going back and forth with the counters, but having that dialogue. If you just have 2 guys sending offers back and forth through the platform,
Right.
that's okay. You can get trades done. But if you have a chat feature, especially if you just have a one-on-one private chat feature instead of just doing it in the comments.
Right.
Some leagues will have like a Facebook group. Some leagues will have everybody jump on Twitter, things like that.
Right.
And also just if you have league mates that you're buddies with that you can get together in person. So like Nick and I, we're always sitting together. Okay, how about this? And, and that.
And honestly, we rarely make trades, but it's good to talk.
And it's just a lot quicker than sending
For
one.
sure.
No, I don't want that. And I send back a guy. It's, okay, well, what if you added this piece? Nah, I don't want that. How about this guy? And then you can just get through the whole thing a lot
That's
faster.
our other fantasy league that we co-manage a team in another fantasy league, and that's how the trade system is there. You make one offer and they decline it, and there's nothing back. You send another offer and they don't respond. It's hard to get a trade done when you only get one stab at the trade. So you basically have to over-offer from the get-go, and there's no price negotiation.
Yeah, and I'd say again, I go back to that. If you want to trade, don't just make people feel awful for giving you an offer that you don't like.
Right.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
And for the love of God, just respond back. If you don't like the offer, or you don't want to deal with trading, just say no, thank you. I'm not trading at this time.
So here's a great example from our
Decline the
Dynasty
trade.
League is I offered when Geis got cut, I didn't know if he'd clear waivers or not. I thought I was going to drop Larry Fitzgerald because I needed another spot on my roster. So I sent the trade offer of Larry Fitzgerald in a third for Geis.
Okay.
Just on the off chance that somebody grabs him or that, maybe he comes back and gets a second chance, maybe cleans up his act. But so the guy that I had offered that to doesn't respond. I assume that he's seen it. It's been a while up there. I take it off. I withdraw it after he doesn't clear waivers. I look at the waiver wire in our league, and he has bid $7 of fab to pick up Larry Fitzgerald and dropped Geis. Like,
unbelievable.
You could have had more. Like, what are you doing?
I know, but that's exactly.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb.
That's our first point over and over again. Know your team or know your league. I mean, you know who you're playing against.
Well, pay attention too, because again, you don't know what offers you miss.
Absolutely.
So some people don't like to have the alerts, but again, in a dynasty league, especially where there are people that are active and making offers, I do like to have those where you can just see and it's nice when somebody makes a comment in the chat, and then you can see it and you just jump in and add some things. It just helps keep the league going, helps communication, just makes it more fun. Again, some of our leagues the one we co-manage, there's a lot less of that chat, and it's easier to stay engaged when you got people kind of responding.
For sure.
If you see trades, again, I like if the people weigh in, Mike, you did a great job. You really took advantage of Andrew. And then
Thank you.
And then it ends up working out.
Thank you so much.
That will kind of bring me to my next tip. One thing, again, this might relate a little bit more to Dynasty, but just know the situation going forward. So, for example, if a player is on the last year of their contract and is going to become a free agent,
right?
I believe Aaron Jones is on the last year of his contract. So things I've seen have said the Packers are trying to re-sign him. But let's say he goes to free agency and he gets signed by the Falcons or something next year. You like that for him.
Right.
And his value is going to go up. So if you can trade before that happens, Kareem Hunt's another one who's going to become a free agent, who's a talented back, but he's behind Nick Chubb. If he could go, to somewhere where they need a running back, if he ends up on the Buccaneers or something like that.
Yeah, if you're looking keeper dynasty, for sure. So you got to look at the next season. You got to plan your attacks ahead.
Yeah, and as we mentioned earlier, if there's a player who you think's going to have a good start of the year, but there's a talented rookie behind him who might take their job later, if he can have some good games and you could trade him before that rookie kind of comes on.
Yeah.
Things like that. So be aware of just the situation and things that could happen going forward. Another thing that sometimes people look at as good advice is if you look at the strength of schedule sometimes. And maybe a player that you like has a soft start of the year and they're playing, bad defenses. And then at the end of the year, they all of a sudden it picks up and they have, 4 or 5 really tough defenses in a row. That might be a good time to make a trade.
Or like Ethan in our Dynasty League, he's got Baker Mayfield, but he's already told me he's looking at other quarterback options for the first 4 weeks because Baker's got a tough opening schedule.
I dropped Tyrod Taylor, and I think you picked him up. I threw him a lifeline. I thought he might, too.
Flotation device to get you.
Yeah, if he was looking at Rivers, I'll probably grab Tyrod.
Yeah. But that's the type of player, okay, you're going to pay a premium right now for a quarterback probably, but if you wait, a couple weeks, he has a rough start, you can buy him then for less at a discount, and you probably weren't going to start him for a couple weeks anyway.
Yeah, Tyrod Taylor's a good example that, if he has a hot start, I think their schedule's a little bit soft at the start, but he's a guy that you could trade before Justin Herbert gets a chance because he's probably not the future, so they're going to give their guy that they took high in the first round of the NFL draft a chance. Mm-hmm. So, again, you're looking at your team, you're partway through the year, you're feeling good, but
We need more dogs.
you realize you need some more talent. You need that little extra piece to get you over the edge. So, one thing that I also think is a good tip is if you're looking to make a trade, a team that's good to trade with is a team coming off a hard loss or a team that's had a couple losses in a row. You want to look for that team where they're not doing things aren't going well. They need to change. They feel like they're desperate. I got to make a move or I'm just going to keep losing.
And they probably have a couple studs that just didn't show up for a little bit.
Yeah, and that definitely happens. And every year there's guys that, they get taken high. They have a slow start. Joe Mixon is a great example. I know you traded him away, but perfect example. He was dropped in leagues. I picked him up on the waivers in the family league that I won. And there are guys where things like that happens. Amari Cooper's a guy that sometimes will have those bust games.
He'll disappear.
And then, people will be looking to get rid of him.
But you know what you're signing up for there, too.
Players that have a low week, too, that hurt somebody, that disappointed them, that lost them a week. If you can find a guy like Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, guys like that, those wide receivers that are capable of having those big blow-up win games that are talented. But sometimes those are two that came to mind that just hurt people.
All right, I think my next one, actually, Heath came up with another good tip here. Looking for playoff schedules. So obviously at the draft, you're drafting your team for their season predictions, how their team is setting up. If you're looking at running backs, you can see what the offensive line is, whatever the other experts are saying. But midway through the season, you kind of have to look to see what the playoff schedules are at. Let's say you have Joe Mixon and Aaron Jones, but they have a brutal playoff schedule. You can trade those players and swap them for players with really good playoff schedules, or try and get a couple.
Yeah, and we had a comment. Somebody saying that they only look at people's playoff schedules because they're always in the playoffs.
Yeah,
it's a good problem to have.
Yeah. That's Heath, by the way.
That's pretty neat.
That's pretty.
Oh, Heath, the champ.
Yeah. So subtle. So subtle, so modest.
Yeah, he was a champ before I got there.
That's true.
Now I just win them all.
Oh,
But I made him quit
Okay,
our dynasty
okay.
league. He couldn't hack it. He was just too afraid.
He said he regrets getting out of that one.
Yeah,
You should.
because it's a great league.
It is. It is. I think another one of my tips would be always get the better player, especially if you're not. Especially
Ideally,
if you're, I know what you mean, but try and be the 2-for-1 guy, not the 1-for-2 guy. If you're in Dynasty, I think it's a little bit different, but in redraft with a 1-year shot to get it done, I think you gotta end up with the better piece because your starters are so important and your draft or your bench isn't as important.
yeah. And again, I don't know if we mentioned it, but knowing what the other person is lacking and then what you need. So if there's a team
Right.
where they're strong at running back, but they're weak at wide receiver, and you're strong at wide receiver,
Right.
and
I like to
then-
sell depth for studs.
See, I think sometimes a great trade is when both teams can benefit. Hopefully, again, you
No,
can win.
I disagree.
I think
A
that-
great trade is when the other team doesn't do well afterwards.
Again, it's hard to make a team. It's hard to win trades all the time because you'll
True.
offer it when you're going to win and
True.
people won't make it. If you can offer something where, okay, this will help your team, but it will help my team, where at the same time it doesn't necessarily weaken each team.
Right.
Like those are the trades that are going to happen. Those are the trades that are going to get done.
Yeah.
Especially if you can make the case for them. If you're chatting, it's like, hey, I noticed that you have, this really good wide receiver who's on your bench all the time.
Yeah.
Who's kind of, came on. But you're weak at wide receiver. I have this wide receiver. That's the kind of trade where people are like, oh, okay.
I see why this-
I don't feel like I'm losing. I feel like this is helping.
Right. And back to point one, know your league.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, what else you got?
That's about what I had on this.
All
Any
right.
other things you can think of?
I said I told Barry we'd do this episode. I told him we'd talk over a couple of his points. I'll give him one more here.
All right, here we
And
go.
actually, I'm just going with this third point. I alluded to it a little bit. It's lose the thought of having a deep bench. That's Barry's thoughts. That's not mine. But I, in theory, agree. The more chances you have to, or I guess should say, the fewer decisions you have week to week on who to start, the better. If you have a lineup that you can just put in week after week, you don't have to think about it. You don't have to look at matchups. You just know you play your studs, and that's what it is. There's some peace of mind to that, no?
I personally don't subscribe to that. I like to have the
Okay.
bench because I think that, there's so many times that there's a player gets hurt or something happens or something changes, something shifts. I do like to use the waiver wire too to,
Right.
pick up
Well, I
those
said that.
pieces, even though I might not play that guy. Just to
I
have
like
him
that
on
we
my bench.
disagree on this point. What does the chat think? We got 13 viewers in here. Somebody's got to have an opinion, no?
Oh yeah, again,
Let's see what we got, Heath. I said you can only start so many people. I mean, especially in our keeper league, we have so many bench spots that you can't start everybody. I don't want to make week in, week out decisions on who I'm going to flex, who I'm going to put in wide receiver to. Like that's because I always choose wrong. I always choose wrong.
I'll load up, and
I would bet most people you choose wrong.
And I want a guy that could fall in, like if an injury happens in front of him, if
Right.
a certain thing goes his way, where then all of a sudden he goes
Right.
from being that guy who's maybe usable in the flex to
Yeah.
okay, I can plug this guy in and get some points.
All right, chat's saying get the studs. Yeah,
Get the stuff. Well, yeah,
Deep bench.
that's great.
no,
And so-
no likey.
But you
no
gotta
likey
offer
the deep
something.
bench.
You can't just get studs for nothing.
Can I offer you a nice egg in this trying time?
Okay, now we got another guy that wants a good bench. So
You gotta offer
chat's,
something of value.
chat split. Chat split.
Yeah, you can't just be Heath. Just you're taking advantage of the new guy every time.
I
You
think
got bamboozled.
that's what you want to do. Just
No, he's like,
the
hey, you
trade
want
done.
this great piece, and then you look over.
Mozambique, yeah.
these are very niche drops here.
Hey, we're on
I
Twitch.
don't
We got
know.
the video
I
game
don't know
crowd
how many
out
of these
there
drops
for
are
my
hitting
Apex
home now.
fans.
I don't know. We got the Apex little figure shirts.
All right, I think I got most of the drops in. So
Okay.
that's really what's important.
Perfect. Well, thanks for listening to this episode of Why You Suck at Fantasy Football.
Yeah. Stick around on Twitch if you're following us live. We're
Yeah.
gonna take a little break and then we'll do a little more live
Yeah.
streaming.
Subscribe, like,
Yep,
comment,
yep.
especially
Follow.
comment,
Trying to
follow,
get
all
up.
the bits. All right.